Hi, welcome to Cheapskate Gaming News and Tech Reviews. Got a little bit of news, sort of a news roundup today. So over the weekend we had the Tokyo Game Show, and on the Tokyo Game Show they showed off a little bit of cyberpunk. I think we've seen most of this footage before, but I think they went through a different option setting. And let's just say the game is starting to look really, really nice now. Starting to look a little bit more polished from some of the other gameplay footage we've seen. In the Japanese game footage we saw at the Tokyo Game Show, we get to see some new decisions that are made regarding the outcomes of those decisions, and of course, CD Projekt Red look like they've really gone to work and gone to town on this game. It looks like it's going to be a game you play the way you want to play it, and that's choices are always good when it comes to video games. It also increases the replayability, so you can play it once one way through. You might want to play good guy all the way through it, or as good as you can be all the way through it, and then maybe next time you want to play a bad guy, be a right asshole all the time. And I think in the gameplay footage I'm showing here, we've got a little bit of the main character here deciding to hold up and sort of steal from a little vendor on the side of the road, a little bit like Grand Theft Auto. So yeah, that's looking all very good and very nice, and due to come out sometime November. So we look forward to that. So also in Tokyo Game Show we had Hyrule Age of Calamity. So this basically it's a Zelda game, and that's due to release November the 20th. Obviously just for Nintendo Switch. Looking very much like almost Zelda meets Dynasty Warriors. Graphically it looks very nice. Apparently this one's got a lot more of a story element to it, rather than the Breath of the Wild Zelda, where you sort of made your own story and went about it your own way. This sort of seems like it takes you down a path and gives you the story that way. Graphically looking very much like a Zelda on a Nintendo game. You get to play different characters throughout the game as well, so that's probably quite a nice thing. Fortunately I don't own a Switch, but I thought I'd bring this little bit of news because, you know, when Zelda games come out they're obviously a big thing. So we'll just see how that one goes. Doubtless to say that it'll sell millions and millions of copies like every Zelda game, but it will be interesting to see how well it does this fall, this winter. There wasn't really much else on the Tokyo Game Show really worth talking about. It was kind of stuff we've already seen, little bits of snippets of this, little snippets of that. Nothing much that I kind of skimmed over it. I saw a lot of things about music and stuff, but the main meat and potatoes of today's show is obviously Xbox Series X was actually shown with gameplay on it, and that was via Digital Foundry. So in the footage here you can see that Digital Foundry actually have the console. They can plug it in, and obviously they're connected to Xbox Live. And I think we really need to talk about the quality of the backwards compatibility. So it looks like it's struggling to hit 4K at 60. In the Hitman footage we got here, it's hitting 57, 56, 55 even sometimes on a 4K. It's the 4K quality mode, and obviously it's showing there it's a 70 or 80% improvement over the normal Xbox, but the Xbox One X then. But this is a 12 teraflop RDNA 2 machine. In theory, it has 3 times the GPU power and about 7 times the CPU power of an Xbox One X. So I can't understand why it's not hitting the 60 and really holding that 60. Now, Digital Foundry tend to put this into a positive light. They tend to be sort of very positive about it, but they're kind of I have a little bit of a flaw with Digital Foundry at the moment, because some things, some games will come out and they'll target 60 and they'll hit 58, 59, and they'll kind of say, well, it doesn't hit its IPC performance gain, and be very negative about it. And then other things come out and they hit 58, 59 sort of frames per second, and then they see it in a positive light, so they kind of flip-flop, and they have this very sort of almost a biased approach to, if they like the game or they like the company, then they'll put the negatives in a positive light, where if they don't, obviously not, maybe they're not getting money off some companies and what have you, they'll tend to put the negatives in a very negative light. You take games like From Software games, where they say, about the frame rate timings are always off. And although the From Software games are some of the most popular games out there, and people don't really care that it's 1 frame over or 1 frame under, but they tend to be very negative and play that down. But as you can see from the footage, the Xbox Series X is really struggling to hit 60 FPS. Okay, so it's unoptimized games, but I noticed these have been cherry picked by Xbox for Digital Foundry to show. I noticed on the footage we're seeing here of No Man's Sky, they're looking at the floor. Like, well, any game you look at the floor, especially on PC, look at the floor, you get a much higher frame rate. So they're looking at the floor and it's just about hitting 60, but it doesn't always. When they start looking at the sky, the frame rate drops to in the 50s. So this isn't really a great showing, I think. I think this to me says that there's problems with the Series X regarding its so-called power efficiency. Now, Digital Foundry did try to say that it was down to the memory bandwidth problems. Well, not problems, but they're not so much of a gain in the memory bandwidth over the One X. That could be the case, yeah, but 3 times the GPU, 8 times the CPU power, this should be smashing 60 frames per second all the way through. I mean, that's really strange, really quite a bit of an enigma, really. And these are the cherry-picked games they're showing off here, so make of that whatever you will. I'd love to know what you think down in the comment section below. And then also they did show off the loading times, which again, not that great, were they? And these are the cherry-picked ones again. So we're looking at about 20 seconds in Call of Duty Warzone. Okay, that's a lot better than the One X and the Xbox One, where you're waiting for over a minute. And then for some reason they tend to go on and have this big thing about Grand Theft Auto 4. Now, why Grand Theft Auto 4? Why do they cover that so much? I mean, this is a game. Is anyone still playing Grand Theft Auto 4? I mean, I'm not even playing Grand Theft Auto 5. Once it's been out 1 or 2 months, I'm over with it. I know they upgrade, and I've got friends that play it all the time, but I don't understand that. Doom was about 20 seconds. I mean, some of the games, I believe No Man's Sky, which they didn't show, they showed footage of it playing the frame rate, but they didn't show how long it takes, and apparently that takes over a minute to load on the Xbox Series X, so make of that what you will. So this will definitely be interesting to see where Sony catches up here with their amazingly fast and super speeded hard drive that's going to blow the world away. So we got, 22 seconds there loading time. So anyway, so it's not all great news for Sony either, because it turns out in the UK, I think it's around the world as well, that some people who have made their pre-orders will not be getting their pre-orders, not on release day. So a couple of people have posted out their emails, screenshots of their emails from Shop2, which is a company here in Britain. I've bought from Shop2 before now, and Shop2 have always been a little bit the company that sort of sends the games a little bit earlier. Just for my example was, I remember Halo 4 came out, and I remember it released on a Tuesday, and I had it on the Thursday before, and I was playing it online, and I literally had it 5 or 6 days before anyone else could buy it, and that was because I bought it from Shop 2, and they were famously known in Britain for sending games 2 to 3 days early. So if it's a Friday release, you'd get it on the Wednesday before. If it was a Tuesday release, you'd get it before the weekend. And I don't know if they got into trouble and they stopped doing that, but that was the way that Shop 2. So anyway, so that's the sort of negative news for Sony, that some people aren't going to be getting their pre-orders. And it looks like also GameStop is affected by this as well. And this could be really bad news for those that pre-ordered. Now, is this a fault of Sony, or is this the fault of the vendor? Probably it's just the fault of the vendor. Because at the end of the day, if they've made out that they've got more consoles than they've been allocated, or they've made the pre-orders available before their allocation, then that's a risk they've taken, and they've pissed people off, and unfortunately it looks like a negative light for Sony. So that's a sort of little bit of a roundup of the weekend's news. I know it's a little bit late, but here we go. What can you do? So my name's Glyn. This has been Cheapskate Gaming News and Tech Reviews, and don't forget, smash the old like button if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it, and consider a subscribe. So, nothing more to say on the matter. I'll speak to you all soon, and this is me, over and out. Bye now. Let's hope I did record that. Oh, well, fancy not getting that. I bloody better make sure I get my PlayStation 5. I've pre-ordered, otherwise I'll be driving over to Jeff Bezos off Amazon and giving him a good old piece of my mind if I don't get mine. Right.